Today, we're going to be talking about how to launch your content marketing strategy with powerful webinars. We'll be explaining tactic 10 in our 17 proven marketing tactics to grow your startup with no budget video in more detail today. Note, for those of you who haven't seen that video already on the 17 proven tactics, I'm going to link it up here and also in the description below. Also, when these are all done, I'm going to compile and put all 17 tactics into one playlist so that you guys can go through them in way more detail in one go and you can start implementing straight away. And if you stick around to the end of this video, I'll be sharing a bonus tip on how you can attract more of a higher quality audience using webinars. Welcome back to Growth Vertical. If you're new here, I'm Neil Patel and I'm a growth marketer based in the UK. And on this channel, I break down growth marketing and personal growth so we can better growth hack our careers, businesses, and ourselves. So let's get into it. I've got a few notes, so I'm going to go through those. But let's start with what are webinars. So a webinar is actually an online event or a virtual presentation of some sort in which people can sort of come and join to watch you and get involved in discussions depending on what the topic is and depending on how interactive you make it. So what kinds of webinars are there? There are two types, live and on demand. Let's go through both of them. So what are live webinars? These are webinars that people can join in live, and that's as the session is being hosted by the host, giving their virtual presentation. And it's usually more interactive with polls and a Q&A at the end of the session. What are on-demand webinars? They are pretty much webinars that are recorded. So you can have a live session that's turned into a webinar. So you record the live session and then you go ahead and turn it into an on-demand version so people can sign up and then just watch it whenever they feel like it. That's the major difference, right? And on-demand webinars, it's important to note that they're not really interactive because you can't really post polls and questions whilst a recorded session is going on, of course, and then get people to join in live, right? They'd be speaking or typing back to no one. So why are webinars important? Why are they so key in content marketing? Let's go through some of the reasons. So first, you can build authority by hosting or even joining webinars, especially when they're around discussing important topics. This is because you can dive into a particular topic in your market and it will actually showcase that you know what you're talking about. You know what you're conveying, what you're seeing. You're also telling the target audience what you think about the current situation in the market and how you can actually help them. The second point after building authority is that you can build trust. And this is because you get to showcase your view and your research. So any stats and trends that you might see, you're actually going over them in those sessions. It's important to note that nowadays webinars are also highly engaging. And the reason for this is because compared to white papers, data trend reports, and even data sheets, right, that are pretty common in the B2B marketing world, you'll realize that people find it so hard to read them, right? They don't find the time to read those assets simply because there's a lot to them. They demand a lot of time, whereas webinars are actually highly engaging and it's actually something you can probably go and maybe eat whilst watching something. You can make notes, you can probably get back to a couple of emails whilst watching a webinar, and you're also consuming information at the same time. So it's worth their time, and that's why people are highly engaging with it. And coming off the back end of that point, you convey a lot more value in that limited amount of time. So if someone doesn't have a time to even read a white paper, let alone me, I can't tell you the number of times I've saved a white paper for my industry and I've parked it in my downloads folder, my to read folder, and then the to read folder gets so big. Like it's so much more impactful if you find a medium that helps you really get through certain information, consume certain important information that you really want to know in a shorter amount of time. And that's what's key now, right? We're all battling for attention and we're trying to get as much information as possible in a shorter amount of time. So a webinar is a great way of actually providing that to the target audience. And you'd actually be getting the message that you want out there much more impactfully opposed to just through a white paper. Now, not to say that white papers and things like that are bad. They are actually great if they're used effectively and in a particular way, in a strategic way. But webinars should definitely be part of your arsenal. Now, on the back end of that point, I want to quickly mention that you can also convey a lot more value in a limited amount of time, right? So compared to reading a white paper and stuff, you can actually convey a hell of a lot more detail, and you can have pure control over what you share with the audience, which is important. So what's important for them to know, and then how can you lead into your product or service that you're offering? And what you want to do is you want to focus on the audience itself, right? Learning and knowing about the industry, the market, and the products that are available to them, or specifically about how your product is beneficial in comparison to the others out there and how it's unique. And this ends up being fantastic because if you have that unique approach where you can convey a message in a limited amount of time, it'll actually help you generate way more leads, and these are higher quality leads in fact. And also you'll be able to allow them to nurture them more effectively, more deeply. And the reason why you want to nurture them is so that you can walk them down the customer journey in order to make that decision as to whether they should think about you when they really need to solve that problem and whether they really need a particular software. I mentioned this already, but when you're building authority with a webinar, it's important to note that by discussing the problem and how it is solved, you're able to do that with multiple people at the same time. So webinars are great because it's a one-to-many relationship in one go. So imagine saying, oh, okay, come book a meeting or book a demo, for example, for one person. You're actually decreasing the time to value by disseminating that information through a larger pool of audience. And the way to do that is through webinars. You might want to pick a high impact topic that's a little bit more trendy, and then slowly filter or weave your way into the area that's connected to your product, and you're getting the word out there to multiple people opposed to a one-to-one relationship per call. And lastly, you will be the expert. It's important that as a founder or as a marketer, you'll also be able to be the expert in that particular area. You'll be viewed as the expert, and you can always invite other experts along to discuss a topic, which will build even more authority, right? So as you know, even on the Growth Vertical podcast, we've actually had a ton of guests on the podcast, and they share what their findings are for the market, so how they've marketed before, how they've grown those startups. That's what we want to do here, right? We want to bring that information to you guys. So it's important that when we're actually sharing this information, it's going to have an impact, and it's also going to create a positive image in the buyer's brain. So what type of webinars can you run? You can run 3 sets of webinars, one for top of the funnel, the second is for middle of the funnel, and the third is bottom of the funnel. Let's go into each more carefully so that you can know which one you can start to try and experiment with. So what are the type of top of funnel webinars that you can run? Well, the first is market education webinars. Now, it's important because things have actually changed. A lot of people do tend to run these. So you really need to think of the issue when you're running these webinars and really look at how you can solve the problem for that person. So if you pick up a market trend, for example, what are the potential solutions that you have to actually make it better, right? What's that pill that you can give them so that it makes their pain much better, or it actually remedies that? And with that, you want to talk about how to actually solve the problem in the industry itself. So your thoughts as an authority, which can be directly industry related. So it's never directly tied to your product specifically, but it's industry related. So it fits to your vertical. The next is insights and trend sessions. So your focus on keeping them informed and educated about things that are actually happening in the market. So these are more reactive pieces of content, because when something new pops up, you might want to just hit the record button or get something scheduled or a presentation put together as to what that means for the industry right there. And the last one is partner webinars, and that's with your product and your partners and how they can be complementary to one another to achieve a greater outcome and have a positive impact on the customer. And that's so that the company that implements them, whoever it may be, may experience, hey, well, if we know we've got these 2 different problems, how can they both be solved, or how can more problems be solved off the back end of them if you in a complementary way, you use both these products, yours and the partners. So what are the type of middle of funnel webinars that you can run? Now, we've got a few here. So there are how-to videos, which are so good, honestly. The number of how-to videos that you can run with someone whilst also answering the question is phenomenal. And this is because you're showing someone how to use your product, but you're also linking how to solve the problem by using your product, which showcases immense value. You might think that a lot of people might not want to watch it, but you'd be surprised, because if someone's looking to solve that problem anyway, but they don't have a way of doing that, if your product is the way of doing that, and it's actually a unique approach, or you have a monopoly with your startup, then it's incredible, because it means that that person is more geared towards using your product, or even testing it out if you've got a free trial or something, so that they can come in and actually look at how to actually do that, or how to solve that problem using your how-to video, and they'll follow that video as well. And the next one is new feature and tool releases. So for example, if you have a product update or you have a feature release for your product, you can run webinars to showcase these. Not only are you promoting the features, but you're also, maybe you've developed a feature that is specifically designed to solve a particular problem in the market, or maybe you've had a few customer requests that focus on, hey, well, we need to solve this problem, but we don't have a way of doing this, and there's nothing on the market like that. So if your company was the one to produce that and you evolve your startup product to that point, release it into a webinar, showcase it and shout about it, because you'll end up actually showcasing to your customer base that you can make improvements for them and provide value, so a greater impact. And you can also attract more prospects, right? So people who aren't customers. And the last one is case study and topic-based webinars. Now, these are like the before and after style videos. They can be really cool because they showcase what a situation is like before you have a product and before you've implemented a solution, and then what the result is at the end. And this becomes phenomenal because you can actually showcase what value is, right? And what the time to impact would be, or time to value would be for a potential customer if they were to sign on or use your product. And this is great because you're showing real life results with your existing customers, which is both credible, and other customers love this. I'm not sure if you know this, but with the psychology of marketing, you'll understand that if someone else or a company sees, or even a competitor sees another competitor or another company, or people just see people in general, and they need help solving that too, they're going to find out how the other person has done it, because they're probably looking at getting on with something else. They want to solve something else. So that's an important one to do. Case study and topic-based webinars. Now, lastly, what type of bottom of funnel webinars can you run? And we have two major ones, right? Product demos and objection handling webinars. Product demos of your actual product. You're showing exactly how your product works, what it does, show off exactly how it solves a pain point for particular customers and what the main pain points are. Show them how the main ones in the industry and the ones that are quite impactful to customers, the ones that are quite common and breaking news almost, how is that solved, right? That's an important one. And then there's objection handling webinars, they're usually short. So objection handling webinars are usually short form. They focus on answering or satisfying the objections, right, of customers. So what that means is if I'm a prospect and I want to buy a product, but I realize and say, oh, I don't have enough budget, that's an objection, right? So I don't pay for this. I don't have enough budget. It's too expensive. Those are objections, right? And the way that you solve that is by showing them, getting on a short form piece of webinar or getting that out there and showing them exactly how useful the product is and how much value it provides, that it's worth their money. So that answers the question. If you're talking about integrations with a particular product out there, let's say that there's some tech systems out there like a CRM or something, showcase in a webinar that you connect to this system, to the CRM system, like a HubSpot, like a Salesforce. Show them on a webinar that you are fully integratable and you can just get started in a matter of a couple of days rather than several months if the objection is, oh, this might take a long time to implement. And finally, for those of you who are probably running webinars already, here are some bonus tips, right? And these have worked effectively for the businesses I've implemented them across. And that is, try running webinars on topics that your product and service solves more often. And you want to rerun them often. There's nothing wrong with running them again. Record your live webinar, turn it into a on-demand webinar, and then leave that gated or even ungated if you want. If you have a fully fledged demand gen strategy that you're working on, leave them ungated and drive people to those on-demand webinars. Then also on the back end of that, create smaller micro versions of your existing webinars and then you're talking about a similar topic but in a different way maybe, or for a different problem. It's totally up to you. And this final tip is actually not a tip, but here's an idea for you guys. I'm going to share an idea, and that's actually going after a limited number of customers. What you're doing is you're picking your top 100 customers and you're actually tailoring your efforts by reaching out to them. But what you're going to do is you're going to offer insight. You're going to maybe do an audit using your product, maybe an ROI report or an impact report or something to showcase what the potential is of a positive outcome for that company in the top 100. And you're going to do that without selling the product. Now, this is more of an ABM or 4 ABM strategies, of course, so account-based marketing, and it can be resource intensive, but it has a massive impact because you're specifically providing value to those top 100 customers. Let's say your software is for enterprises. To get them into the pipeline is phenomenal for your business. So you know that this could be a viable idea that you might want to execute on. So there we have it, everyone. You can now go away, ideate and execute on some of the webinars and see actually how it helps you to showcase yourself as a thought leader and also provide great insights to your target customers. And hopefully that will get you some new prospects into the pipeline. If you enjoyed this video, then you'll probably enjoy this video as well, and it might help you make an impact on your pipeline as well. Question: what type of webinar are you gonna run? Comment that below. If you like this video, please do like and subscribe, and do share so that other people can also gain an advantage by running webinars and checking out this video. If you guys have any more questions, or if you have any ideas or want to hear about anything in particular, please do drop it in the comment section below. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next video. Take it easy. See you soon.